So Kamala Harris's book came out on a day where something else took up the news cycle, but her book shared some very interesting perspectives on the way people in Biden's circle tried to basically completely screw her over. Hey everyone, it's Cam from Bulwark. I'm joined today by my friend Snacks the Hip Hopper to talk about it. Snacks, do you think Biden would have won had he stayed in?
I mean, I don't think so. I think he already had, there's a lot of gaps he had made that already made people not necessarily trust him. And just honestly, his whole presidency and what he ran on and what he talked about compared to what he ended up doing, I think that kind of solidified why people didn't want to vote for him again.
Well, let's see what he thinks about the matter.
Former President Joe Biden on ABC's The View this morning criticized President Donald Trump's second term so far and said he took responsibility for Trump's historic return to the White House.
Let me put it this way. He's had the worst 100 days any president's ever had. I think he has done, quite frankly, a very poor job in the interest of the United States of America.
By the way he just said, quite frankly, was very Trump. Like that was a very Trump delivery. But anyway.
Biden says he would have beaten Trump in the election, but accepted some blame for Trump's victory because of voter concerns about border security.
It is so weird to me that Biden was going around being like, I would have won. Like, dude, shut the fuck up. You are largely to blame for what has happened. Like your administration and the fact that you did not step down and allow there to be a healthy primary where your successor could be picked. Like, dude, this shit is on you. There's a difference between being responsible for something like this and shutting the fuck up about it, and being responsible for something like this and then going on like a media tour to tell everybody that no, actually you would have won. Like, dude, you can't even talk. Literally, come on now. But Kamala's book shared some interesting insights and immediately was met by with some blowback from people in the Biden admin. But it's worth noting that these people who were upset didn't identify themselves. They weren't speaking on the record. They were a little too scared, so they were protected by anonymity, which in my opinion is just very cowardly. But one of the former Biden officials said, Vice President Harris was simply not good at the job. She had basically zero substantive role in any of the administration's key work streams and instead would just dive bomb in for stilted photo ops that exposed how out of depth she was. Okay. Again, this person refuses to identify themselves, so we're just going to have to take their word for it. Then they said Biden is, quote, not the reason she struggled in office or tanked her 2019 campaign or lost the 2024 campaign for that matter. The independent variable there is the vice president, not Biden or his aides. But this is all the Biden officials talking, the Biden unofficials, seeing as they want to identify themselves, talking about Kamala. Let me read you some stuff Kamala said. It's Joe and Jill's decision. We all said that like a mantra, as if we'd been hypnotized. Was it grace? Was it recklessness? In retrospect, I think it was recklessness. This is Harris talking about how the will of Joe and Dr. Jill Biden was determining everything they were doing. She went on to say the stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition. So here she is calling out Biden. And it kind of raises a question like, if you're willing to do this now, why wouldn't you do it when you were running? Because one of the things the Harris campaign tried to do was balance saying, hey, I'm going to be different from the past 4 years that are leaving you all very unsatisfied and unhappy, but also the past 4 years have worked and it's actually been going great. Like, did you see that from the campaign?
Like one foot in one foot in the other, kind of like tiptoeing it the whole time. But I mean, that's the pure fact why Donald Trump won. It was just something that was different. All he had to do was be like, I'm different. And that already got a whole more millions and more people. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And you can't be like, hey guys, here's how everything's going to change without giving any substantive example of what exactly is going to change. And you can't say, hey, I know you're not happy with how things have been, but if you vote for me, things are going to go differently, unless you throw Joe under the bus. Like, if Joe was a good guy, if Joe was somebody who really fucking cared about this country and about his values and about upholding his values, he would have just been like, Kamala, fucking throw my old ass under the bus. Say, listen, I've been the VP. VP is largely a symbolic position. I have not had a hand in how these policies have been written. Here's how I'm going to go in and write them. I want to read a little bit more. Kamala noted that in retrospect, she perhaps should have spoken up at the time, but didn't because it would seem like a power grab. I was in the worst position, she said, to make the case that he should drop out. And then she went on to talk about the way that people were approaching her ascendancy and said that their thinking was zero sum. If she's shining, he's dimmed. None of them grasped that if I did well, he did well. His team didn't get it. And then she added that when the stories were unfair or inaccurate, the president's inner circle seemed fine with it. Indeed, it seemed as if they decided that Kamala should be knocked down a little bit more. And I know that this is true. And this is where my own personal commentary expertise comes into play. I know a bunch of people from these inner circles just through my own experience involved with Democratic electoral politics. I've met a lot of these people. And the people in Biden's inner circle were a cult. They were this kind of circular reinforcement firing squad where everybody was telling everybody that he's actually doing great and he's super sharp. And I heard them saying this. They would talk about how, yeah, you know, he's not doing great on camera right now, but behind closed doors, he's just whip smart. You know, you wouldn't even notice his age. It's like he's 20 years old. And when you hear them say it, like Snacks, you know, when you're talking to someone and you can tell that they are telling a fucking fairy tale that deep down they know is just false. But they've just said it enough times that it's become almost like a muscle reflex to them. Is just kind of telling this story that it's almost like when they're telling it to you, they're auditioning it for themselves. Like they hope if they say it convincingly enough this time, maybe they'll believe it too.
See, I just can't. It's just interesting that, you know, as a president who had a presidency that didn't fulfill anything he talked about, or many things that he didn't, you know, that he talked about while he was running, it's just very interesting. And if he's so, you know, sharp and witty, he still believes that he would have defeated Donald Trump in an election. And I think there's a lot of data that shows otherwise. But
it's like, dude, go paint. Like George Bush, who's a war criminal, he decided to just go paint. Like it was as simple as that. He got a paintbrush, started painting shit. Jimmy Carter was building houses for people. And I
think HW was skydiving. Every birthday he was skydiving when he was still alive.
Is that true?
So, yeah, HW would go skydiving too. He was like 90 something, man. Like bungee jumping, skydiving, you name it.
Would you jump out of a plane?
Oh yeah, man. Come on. Cam, we're gonna jump out of a plane, dog.
I'm not jumping out of a fucking plane. What the fuck?
Cam, we gonna go skydiving, Cam.
Dude, I get a panic attack when we're like walking too fast. Like,
well, you gonna have a panic attack when we thousands of feet up, bro, because you're gonna be jumping out this plane, bro.
What? I would absolutely not jump out of a plane. Whatever. Anyway, it's not gonna happen. You will not see me jump out of an airplane. For anybody watching this, with God as my witness, if I'm in an airplane, I am staying in the airplane until the airplane is on the ground.
And God know he lying, because he gonna jump out this plane, because he knows me. Watch.
I guess to wrap all of this up, like, the larger story here is just the fact that a lot of politicians' inner circles end up being this thing that goes beyond the limits of politics. What happened with Joe Biden's inner circle was not political. There was not a policy reason where the people around him thought that they would be making Americans' lives better by reinforcing the narrative that Joe Biden was mentally competent. This was all about their careers. This was all about their ego, and this was all about his ego. And to a certain degree, I'm not sure how aware Joe Biden was of his unpopularity, because when you're someone in a position like that, you are surrounded by people who are reinforcing a worldview of yours, and you don't have much reason to call what they're saying into question. The people around Joe are supposed to be like the best experts in the world. You're the president of the United States. You're going to be surrounded by the best people. So if you've got everybody around you telling you you're very popular, things are going well, you are actually whip smart, you know, everything's fine, you're gonna believe it. Like, that's how a cult of personality works. And Donald Trump has one of those around him right now. Trump is clearly not well. Like, when you see that guy talk, it's easy to forget how out of it he seems because he's still really funny. But like, does he sound like somebody who's mentally competent? Like, it's the same thing as Biden. He sounds like an old dying man.
Literally. But it's just the fan base around him is going to gaslight and may have you believe that, the dude's really competent and really smart and knows exactly what he's talking about. It's really who you hang around and who you have around you, huh?
And it's obviously like not the same thing, the Trump inner circle and the Biden inner circle, because the Trump inner circle is, people who Trump liked on Fox News who had a podcast that he's like, oh, I like your podcast. You should go be in charge of the FBI, or, you should be tracking domestic terror threats. And these people are actually fucking maniacs. But still, it's the same principle of like politicians having people around them who are just reinforcing the same thing. And again, these people then start to believe it themselves, because when you tell a lie enough times and you want it to be true, it will become true to you. So Joe Biden is mentally competent. Joe Biden is popular. It's everybody else who's wrong. If you repeat it and you repeat it and you repeat it, Joe starts to believe it. You look up to Joe, you idolize Joe, then you start to believe it. And, if you're somebody on the outside, you might ask yourself, is there nobody around him saying like punching through the wall and saying like, hey, I need to shatter this false reality for a second and wake you all up? But the truth is, no. Like when you're someone like that in a position like that, it is entirely possible that nobody in your inner circle is going to be making you face reality, because people like being near you. People like their job where, oh my God, I know this woman who was around Biden multiple times a week, and she would call him POTUS while she was talking to me. She'd be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be in town. I'm going to be in DC next week because he's going to be there. And I'd be like, who's he? Is this a boyfriend, significant other? And she went, POTUS. And I'm like, don't call the president POTUS. Like, I'm not impressed by the fact that you're around Joe Biden, okay? I've seen a lot of shit. I've talked to former presidents before. You're not gonna fucking impress me. Call him the president or Joe or Biden. Calling him POTUS, it's like, fuck you. You're not a Secret Service member.
I do gotta ask you, man. In your analysis, because like you said, man, it's kind of like he has, his people around him that's going to tell him, they're going to cheer his praises every time, no matter what he does. I know, and this might be a history lesson. I know we had a president damn near 100 years ago. I think it was Harding. It was one of them Ohio presidents, right? He was known, and they talked about it. He was known for having all his boys in office. I think they called it like the Ohio Club or the President's Club or something. He was known for having all his boys in office, right? And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know how well that presidency went. I'm just going to say that. I don't know. I think there might have been something called a Great Depression or another world war at that time that we got into. I don't know, but it's just very interesting.
Don't shit talk the having all your boys in office with you thing quite yet, because when I'm the congressman for New York's 12th congressional district, you ought to know I'm appointing you to some very, very serious position for New York and in the Capitol. So get ready, everybody, for the Snacks and Cam Club is what we're going to be calling it, which is going to usher in a new era of prosperity for New York. Snacks, thanks so much for joining me. I'm glad that you didn't go to the hospital yesterday, which is a story for later. Thank you all for tuning in.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you, Cam, for having me, man. Catch y'all soon. And hey, Cam Kasky, vote for him, man. In New York's 12th congressional district.
# yes we can. Goodbye, folks.